The Matilda II infantry tank Mark II A12 was one of the most successful tanks of the early war, and is often credited for scaring Hitler into focusing his efforts more into tank design, leading to tanks like the Tiger. It is also one of, if not the only tank, to have been used in active service throughout the entire war, with the Australians in the late war in East Asia. The Matilda certainly fulfilled its role of the infantry tank with great success due to around 75mm of frontal armor, with cast hulls instead of riveted, shrugging off almost all German fire it faced in France and in the early days of the North African campaign. Indeed, the only threat it faced was the German 88mm, originally an anti-aircraft gun. The crew was composed of four: driver in front, commander, gunner, and loader in the turret. The gun was the standard anti-tank gun of the time, the 2-pounder. This was mounted in a single-piece cast hydraulically turned turret, while the vertical control was shoulder-mounted. The breech rested on the shoulder's gunner. This gave it 15 and 20 degrees of depression and elevation respectively, and gave it some capability to fire on the move. Due to the low caliber of the 2-pounder, the gun fired no H-heat rounds, relying on its Vickers and later Baser machine guns for its anti-infantry capability. It had an ammunition capacity of 94 rounds, with about 80mm of penetration of 500 yards, with APC or APCBC. To power the well-armored beast, two AEC diesel engines were employed, giving it an average top speed of 14 km an hour off-road, but they suffered numerous reliability problems, thus continuing the trend of chronic unreliability of the British tanks in the Desert War. Total production neared 3,000 units, many of which were shipped to the Soviet Union under the Lend-Lease agreement, but struggled in the soft terrain, thin tracks. Overall, there were 5 marks or models of the Matilda, but a small turret ring made it difficult to outgun. The Matilda Black Prince, a Matilda with the Cromwell turret, mounting the 6-pounder, was prototyped, but problems with mounting and other shortcomings doomed the project. The Matilda II would eventually be pushed out of service by the Valentine Infantry Mark III, which was much cheaper and just as effective, and more upgradable, but it would remain a legend for its service in North Africa and at the Battle of Arras. A few remaining Matildas found themselves in Australia for the rest of the war, arming the Aussies against the threat of Japanese invasion, and the Japs' terrible tanks against whom the Matilda would definitely have thrived.